Let's make some noise. Hi and welcome. In the second video I showed you how to activate the sample player in the Blofeld, and now of course we want to load our own samples into the Blofeld. But before we can do this, in the fourth video I'm going to show how to upload the samples, but now we want to have a short look on how to process the samples you record and how to prepare them for the Blofeld. Okay, so there are different types of samples you can have in the Blofeld. First of all, let's talk about the different names of all the things you have. So you have a single sample, this is an audio file, and you have a sample set, which is what you load into one oscillator of the Blofeld. And a sample set can consist of one sample. This means that all the different keys you play will be processed or calculated from your one original audio file. So when you have an audio file in the middle of your range, this means that when you press the highest key, the processing has to pitch your original sample all the way up to the highest key, which means a lot of distortion, and therefore there are also multi-sample sets possible in the Blofeld, and multi-sample sets consist of multiple original keys, so that the range for one original sample is not as big as in the single sample set. And this means that the Blofeld has just pitched up and down the original audio file just a few keys because the next range will be generated from the next sample. And of course there are also one-shot samples. This means you press the key and the sample will be played from the beginning to the end. And there are loop samples, which means the sample consists of two parts: the starting part, which will be played when you press the key, and the loop part, which will be played again and again as long as you press the key. So to create all these different types of samples, you have to prepare your recordings. And of course you can record samples in many different ways. You can use your DAW, you can use a normal audio recorder, even your smartphone, or a field recorder like this one. I choose the field recorder and I recorded a sample from a car. And I choose this sound source because what I experienced is the more unusual your samples are, and the more weird your samples are, the more interesting the results will be. So you shouldn't be afraid of trying many different things and do some experiments. If you want to do the pre-processing, you can use, for instance, the standard tools for this task, which are Audacity and Waveforsaw. Both software are available for free. You can download them directly. They are officially available for Windows, Linux and Mac, but especially on the Mac OS Catalina I experienced some trouble to get the software running, so I would recommend really to use them on Windows. So I use Audacity to do the basic processing, and if I need samples with loop points, I use Waveforsaw. And now let's have a look on Audacity and Waveforsaw. Okay, so this of course is Audacity, and I loaded our samples into the software. Let's have a look. Okay, so it's a basic starting car sound. First, we want to to create a monophonic sample out of this, because you can load stereo samples into the Blofeld, but the Blofeld will add the right channel to the left channel. And sometimes when you have phasing problems, both channels or both tracks would delete each other. And this is also the case in this sample. So let's have a look on this. Okay, so you go to Tracks, Stereo Track to Mono, and then you get one single track. And you can hear immediately that this is not as loud as the original audio file. So here we have exactly this problem with the phases. And if you have this problem, you can do something else. What you can do is, first of all, you go to the sidebar and you split your stereo track into 2 mono tracks. You can delete one of the tracks. But now it's only on the left side. If you want a real mono track, you go here and select mono. And now you have a real mono track. Okay, so this was the first step. The second step can be, if necessary, a noise reduction. Therefore, you select a part where you hear only noise, go to Effect, Noise Reduction, and you first have to get the noise profile. Okay, now you select everything, again, Effect, Noise Reduction, you click on OK, and now you have much quieter noise. The next thing you have to do is to cut away all the parts you don't need. So, of course you could select the parts directly, but I would recommend to click on Edit, Find Zero Crossings. This means that your cursor will always land on a point where your sample will go through the 0 point. And this is important because when you select a data point which is not at 0 but above or below, and the loop will start there or your key will start there, you will always hear a clicking sound which you don't want to have. So it's important to always find the 0 points. And the software has a function to automatically go to these points with your cursor. And now you can just select what you don't need. Of course, you should zoom in to make it as good as possible. Okay, so the next step would be to create a normalization, which means that you pull your sample in loudness as high as you can without distortion. So you go to Effect, select Normalize, and I often choose a maximum amplitude of -1 dB, just to keep a little bit of headroom. Of course, if your sample needs a little bit of equalizing or even a compressor, especially for voice recordings, you can do this too in Audacity. We don't need this here. We can leave the sample just as it is, and we can store it now as a WAV file. 16-bit should be enough, because the Blofeld can also not read more than 16 bits. It would automatically convert it down to 16 bits. So you go to File and Audio Export, and now you can save the WAV file. If you want to have just one single shot sample, this is all you have to do. But if you want to have a loop in your sample, you need the second tool, which is Wavesaw. I opened our file in Wavesaw. Let's have a look. Okay, now we want to have a loop in there. So the motor should run as long as we press the key. So we delete the end of this file, but first of all, of course, we select options. Where is it? And again, snap to zero crossing. Okay, so let's delete the end here. Okay, now we can select the area of our loop. To play the loop, you can activate the looping function in your transport section of Wavesaw, which is here. When you press on play now, it will only play the loop. Okay, so this would be okay for me. I would click on Tool, Loop, and create loop points. Now we have the loop start and the loop end. By the way, there is no reason to keep the audio behind the loop end, because the Blofeld would never play this. So I'm fine with that. If you have the problem that the loop sounds weird, or it would jump extremely when going from the end to the beginning again, you can select Tools, Loop, and Crossfade Loop, which would crossfade the end of your loop with the beginning. Now we can store our WAV file again, File, and I don't know exactly, I think it's the normal save as, again as a WAV file, and this is all you have to do. So you can create your one-shot samples with Audacity, and you can process your loop samples with Wavesaw, and then we have all the files we need for the fourth part of this tutorial to create the sample sets which we put in the Blofeld. If you want to create samples just from a synthesizer, or from a hardware synthesizer, software synthesizer, or a different sampler, you can also use a sampling robot. This is software which you can use to create samples automatically. You just set your MIDI output and your audio input, and the software will play the keys and record the audio files and store it on your computer so that you can start immediately with these audio files. That's all for today. Thank you very much for watching. Please leave a like or a dislike, and of course a comment. And I hope to see you in the next part of this tutorial. Have a nice day.